Let's go, gang. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. All right, standing by. Let's do this. Yeah. All right. There we go. All right, how are you doing, everybody? We thank God for each and every one of you all. Hey, guess what, guys and girls? Amen. Brothers and sisters in Christ, it's 8 o'clock straight up on a Friday night. And you know what goes on a Friday night, right? It's the green screen, that's for sure. Guess what, people of God? We are inspirational, informative, hey, encouraging, and motivational, all right? So we have a show for you on tonight. We praise God for each and every one of you all, and welcome to the green screen on this Friday night. And my special guest is none other than Mr. Jeff Duhe, all right? Louisiana Partnership Coordinator, amen, for the Census 2020. Good evening, sir. How are you doing? Welcome to the green screen.
Good evening, Councilman. It's a pleasure to see you. It's always good to talk with anybody in St. Mary Parish through any medium, and this is one of those that can reach a lot of people, and I understand you have a lot of friends who are watching.
Amen, amen, yes. Well, I know you've been busy for a while now. The Census 2020, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk. How have things been going, for overall?
Well, overall, we are really proud of the fact that people have stepped forward with an attitude of, hey, I want to be, well, let me quote an old spiritual to you, Reverend.
Okay.
Do you remember the old spiritual line, let me be in that number?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because I want to be in that number?
Yes, sir. That's a good one.
I think that was referring, in fact, to the heavenly host being in that number. But here on earth, being in that number means that you are part of a community. And being counted is what the census is all about. In other words, do you want to count as a part of your community? Do you as an individual and your family, do you want to count and make a difference in improving the lives, the livelihood, the happiness of people in your community? Do you want to do that? Or are you going to say, no, census doesn't matter to me. Voting doesn't matter to me. It's the same kind of thing. And I tell you what, in St. Mary Parish, Patterson, Franklin, Berwick is doing really well, by the way. Maybe we can talk about some details on why.
Yeah.
Berwick wants to be a city. And there, a certain number of threshold of people. Anyway, I'm off the topic. I didn't answer your question.
Oh, no, that's okay.
The answer to your question is St. Mary Parish is doing very well. And I can give you some numbers in a second. But as you can see, I'm actually from St. John Parish and Reserve, so we talk a lot.
Oh,
so, I will ramble forever. You cut me off.
That's good. You're fine, because that's what we do. The green screen. Hey, let's talk. All right. So I'm from St. James. I'm right down the road from you. Know what I'm saying? I'm from St. James Parish. So I just happened to marry a young lady from St. Mary. But we're gonna continue. We're gonna continue on. So the response, man. I just want you to let the people know, how important their response to filling out the census, and it does not take that long to do. Let's talk about the response.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. 6 questions is the minimum you could get away with, maybe 10 minutes. You could go to the phone right now as you're listening to as someone is listening to you and I talk, and before we are finished this interview, they could have registered. We don't use the word register, we use the word respond, because we don't want people to think that when they're giving their name, they give like their name and their address and how many kids you got, where do you live, that kind of thing. The basic questions is a census. But the thing about the census is, this is not like giving your information to either Facebook or to a company. You're not giving your information to somebody that is going to sell it to a marketer and you're going to get a spam. You're not giving your information to somebody who somehow your information. We don't want your Social Security and your banking information. In fact, let me tell you one thing. Somebody calls and says they're from the census and they want your Social Security and your banking information. Give me a break. Come on. I hope there are not too many people out there who are ever going to fall for that one. By the way, the census won't call you, just like the IRS. So never fall for those kinds of scams. Anyway, like I said, I get off track. But the census is so super confidential. It is protected by federal law that if, you know, that person who goes up to your door and knocks and says, would you like to respond to the census? That person is sworn under oath that your information is only going in his or her tablet there standing on your porch, and it's only going to the census, and it is never ever leaving the census. That person is sworn under federal law that they will never reveal anything that you told them to the United States Census, or when you go online and told them your name and can respond to the census that way, or when you call. If that person who's standing on your porch should ever reveal some of that it's called personally identifiable information, PII. If that person would ever reveal some of that PII, they would be locked up in jail for 7 years. That's how serious the census is. The census has never had an information breach, the way that some of these like credit services and companies have had an information breach. It has never happened. We're talking lockdown in federal government computers. I'm going off about confidentiality right now because we find that some people they don't want to respond because of the reason that they think their information is going to go somewhere. And you know, 50 years ago, we didn't have people not responding because they thought their information was going to be stolen. Because 50 years ago, that wasn't our world that we were living in. But today, people are apprehensive. And I just maybe wanted to get that out straight, that it ain't going nowhere. It is going nowhere, and it is being locked up, and it's being locked up for 50 years. And you can go back and you can look where your grandma was living in 1940, but you cannot find out where she was living in 1950 because it's 50 years now, it's 70 years, actually, if you add in a couple other things. So 72 years, really, before that information is going to come around. Did you want, again, I ramble, but you wanted to know something about how the parish and the town is doing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You ready for the numbers?
Go ahead. Let's do it. Let's go.
The numbers are really pretty good. I want to tell you that the United States number of people who have decided to go online to census.gov, which they can do right now, or they've called the telephone number, or they have already responded somehow to a census taker, is 66%. Okay. Now the national number is really higher than that because we don't have a fresh number on how many door knockings have happened this week or like that. So it takes a little while to get those numbers in. But in Louisiana, you got to keep in mind the American average is 66% of people who have decided to self-respond. In Louisiana, it's about 60. So that's good. But let me tell you something, that in all of 2010, which is the last time we did a federal census, it was 56. And so for Louisiana, it was 61. So for Louisiana right now to be at 60, whereas all of 2010, we came in at 61, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And let me get to the local numbers in a second. But I kind of have forgotten your point maybe. You were asking me the importance, maybe.
Yeah, the importance. But all the information that you're giving to us is very informative. So that's real good. But yeah, I just was talking about, as far as the response, because even I've asked people about it, man. How you fill out the census? Oh, no, man, they want too much information. You know what I'm saying? And those type things. So that's why I wanted you to respond. How the people response really matters to this.
You tell me, please, if you would. What do you think in Patterson, in Berwick, down into like Amelia, where a lot of people live, in that section, that industrial section of Morgan City, for example? You have some people whose first language is not English, perhaps. I know that that's true. We're trying our best to reach people who have traditionally, because the census has been going on since 1790, the eggheads kind of have it figured out as to who is called a hard to reach person. And we often find that sometimes African-American communities, just by the nature, I don't know why or anything like that, but by the nature of them and other minorities in some communities, they don't have a sort of a connection in some way to feeling like it matters. Am I speaking out of turn here, or am I speaking with some truth?
You're okay. Yes, you're fine. You're fine.
Where does that come from? You tell me.
People just don't want to give the information. I mean, they're just as educated as you can bring the info, get them educated to the information. It's just fearful of just giving out the information, not knowing it's very beneficial for building, and so so
there you've hit on the other really important point there, Councilman, and that's you as a public official have dealt with public budgets, and you know that in Patterson, Morgan City, Franklin, y'all get some federal dollars to do things like roads, Head Start, everything. If you would add up all the federal sugarcane grants, the small business grant, what was going on recently, of course, with the COVID is people got grants to be able to continue paying the wait staff at a restaurant. That came from the federal government, right? I mean, everybody's paid their taxes. And I'm not saying that there is like a cow that you want to get milk from for free. Everybody's paid their taxes to the government for those roads, for that Head Start program, for that senior meal, for that police officer. And you want to get back what is fair to the community of Patterson. Now, if Patterson does not properly respond to the census, does not fully say, we've got, what's the population of Patterson? I used to know.
65, I think, between 64 and 65, six.
Absolutely. Let's say Patterson wants a grant to improve the water system, which actually y'all don't need to because you've done it.
Yeah, we got the new plant.
Y'all got a great system now.
Yes, sir.
But let's say you want to cleaner water, cleaner drinking water, and you are competing with Topeka, Kansas. Topeka, Kansas has really responded well to the census, and they can say, look, we've got all these kids in Topeka who need clean water. We don't want them to wind up like Flint, Michigan, kids having trouble because of environmental issues. Are we going to give that grant to Patterson, or are we going to give it to Topeka? Well, Patterson only has 6 children in the whole town. I mean, I'm exaggerating.
Yeah, I understand.
But if the numbers aren't right, then the services that you can provide as a local government, the amount of support that you get from the federal government is not fair. And again, I'll come back to, we're not trying to shake that money tree called the federal government. What we're doing is we're trying to say Patterson fairly deserves X dollars, not Z dollars, but it deserves X dollars. And by matching that correctly, the federal government gets that by looking at the census figures. And if the census figures are not accurate for Patterson and St. Mary Parish, it's not just the federal dollars, but businesses rely on census data too.
Right.
And if I'm going to locate my business, and if I want to build a Toys R Us, are we running long?
No, you're good. You're all right. You're fine.
If I'm the location manager, if I'm the president of Toys R Us, and I look at the census data and I say Patterson has 6 children in it, I'm not going to open a Toys R Us in Patterson.
Right.
But if the census data is accurate, and it's the same thing, I shouldn't use a business. I want to stress that businesses use census data to know where to locate jobs. That is absolutely gospel truth. But it's also Patterson's proper counting of children means that the Head Start program does not have waiting slots anymore. I don't know if y'all have any right now. I've never really checked that statistic, but a lot of communities, I was back in your land of Gramercy, and they've got Head Start waiting slots, okay?
Wow.
And, because, and maybe it is just as simple sometimes as we just didn't know we had this many students, this many kids who would need the Head Start meal or the books or something like that. Anyway, I'm rambling, but when you put it together, you've got to respond.
Oh yeah. And Mr. Jeff, that you're not rambling. This is informative. This is what we do. This is what the green screen is all about, you know, to especially be informative. And that's very important information that you shared. Later on, you know, I'm going to also have the mayor of Patterson here to talk about where we are as far as the census is concerned, because you know what? Hey, we need the people to fill out the form. And I had the pleasure of filling out the form. And guess what? I was excited about it because, you know, I did it way long time ago, and it didn't take long, you know, it didn't take long. And so
Did you do it online?
I did it online. Yes, sir.
So, but you did get the card in April or May or so, right?
Or something like that. Yes, sir.
You got
Yes,
a paper card to do that.
yes,
Well,
sir.
the thing about the paper card is you actually don't need to wait to get that in the mail, because those are all sent out, and they're not going to be any more of those going out. If you didn't receive one, you can simply go to census.gov and you can register. Now, you might be thinking, if you got a suspicious mind, wait a minute, I could do that 3 or 4 times. No, no, no. The computers will catch you.
They'll catch you, right? Exactly.
They're not going to let you lock. They'll let you enter the information, but eventually it'll declare one household for what you put in. Anyway, I didn't want to get weirdly pessimistic there, but just know you can go online at census.gov and you can complete the census very easily. And again, I cut you off, but was it easy for you and your household?
Real easy, real easy, real easy, real easy. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And so we push it over the radio every chance we get. I mention it in our worship service and things like that. And so you know, that's important because, Mr. Jeff, you know, if the people of Louisiana could lose billions of dollars if they don't fill out the census, correct?
That's true. And you know what else? In this time when we're all talking about representation and we're heading really close into a presidential election, a lot of people are talking about who represents me in Washington, and so many of these Senate seats are up and such as that. When you remember your fifth grade civics here, the census is what determines how many representatives Louisiana and every state gets in the House of Representatives. Now, again, if you remember your fifth grade civics, how many senators does every state get? Every state gets 2, whether it's Rhode Island or Texas, right? The senators are not what we're talking about. It's the House of Representatives. When Louisiana didn't show a population growth in 2010, and we lost one of our seats, everybody remembers that very well in South Louisiana and St. Mary Parish, because you remember the Jeff Landry and Boustonay kind of challenged there as to who was going to how that was going to work out, because Louisiana went down 1 seat in the House. Our representation, if you want to put it crudely, our stroke in power, the power that we had, the representation in Washington went down by 1 seat. And what was that linked to? How did that happen? Who determined that? The fact that we did not have that many people to deserve that seat. But there were other states whose population grew. And by that, I mean the census showed their population grew. The census response is what proved and was the fact of the matter. You know, it was the sheet of paper, it was the ledger sheet that said Louisiana deserves to lose a seat in Congress. That was a bad thing for us, because we need the representation, and we need people there fighting for us, and we need people in Washington who can express our voices and our opinion to power and to the president and like that. So the census is not just about businesses and about services and Head Start. It's about representational, let's put it bluntly, power. We have less representation if we do not properly fill out the census and respond to the census. You have to do that so that Louisiana can have its fair amount of representation. Was it fair that Louisiana lost a Senate seat? There are some people who don't believe it was fair. They don't believe we should have lost a House of Representatives seat. And they look back 10 years and they go, that census count was really low and it wasn't accurate. And I don't know how to respond. I don't speak for the census, or I don't speak for the government. But what I can do is I can say, well, what did the number say? The number says, Louisiana, you lose a seat. So will you respond to the census in 2020? Please, all of your viewers, please do. That's all. I'll leave it at that. Just please do it.
Yeah,
Census.gov, just do it.
that's it. And it's real, it's real easy. And once again, I thank you for the time you sharing with us about this. And this is so important because it does not go, it's not going to take place again for another, what, 10 years, correct?
That's right. That's right. It only comes around every 10 years. You only get one chance every 10 years to make yourself count, to say, I am a member of this community, and our community of Patterson, our community of St. Mary Parish, it counts, it matters, and we want that count to be fair and accurate.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Mr. Jeff. I know that at the top of the hour, you had mentioned something about how Berwick got the numbers. Let's talk about that. You had mentioned.
Oh yeah. Our neighbors over there in Berwick, they respond. Well, I'll do it backwards here. In all of the year of 2010, the last census, 63.5% of Berwick self-responded. Right now, as we're sitting here tonight, the number is 64.
64.
So wow. Berwick has responded to the census more as we sit here on September the 25th today. Yeah.
Yeah, 25th.
Oh Lord, my days they get mixed up. As we sit here on the 25th of September, Berwick has surpassed its entire 2010, all the way January through all the way to December self-response. And I think that I know why. And if the mayor of Berwick is watching, you got it, buddy, because y'all are looking forward to a solid count in Berwick. And it's largely because Berwick really is excited about becoming a city. Wow. 5,000. A village is 500. They say it takes a village. Well, it takes 500 actually to make what's called a village. And then you got a town is anything above that. But at 5,000, you become a city. And what happens there is formulas begin to change. Funding begins to change. If you're a city, like we're hoping Berwick can become next year, then you get more money for roads and different things. It's complicated, but things change and things get better in city government when you become a city. Now, Patterson is already, there. But
well, yeah. Speaking of Patterson, I see that the mayor is awaiting. I want you to stay with us for a little bit, amen. And of course, I did tell you that the mayor was coming on with us, and so I see he's standing by. But listen, as far as I had something I had something that I wanted to ask you about. As far as the business, the census, it affects businesses as well. Business decision, you said, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Business people use it all the time. People who run marketing campaigns, people who run public relations, people who decide where to locate jobs, they look at the census numbers. Well, first of all, because they don't have to go hire some paid consultant to go and tell them how many people are in Baldwin. All they have to do is look for free, because all federal information is free, the number of people in Baldwin. Now, when somebody goes look at census information, they never, ever see that Mrs. Harriet Johnson is living on Jones Street in Baldwin. They never get down to that level. But what they do is they can get down to the 3,000, 4,000 level, and they can say, and no smaller than that, neighborhood level. And they can say, am I going to locate a welding shop here for jobs in Baldwin or Amelia? And that they use that information because it's free, and also because it is the most accurate information you can possibly get. There is no greater agency on earth that is a data collection agency than the U.S. Census.
Wow, and that's why they need to go ahead on and fill out. I'm just looking here for the video for the mayor. That's why they need to fill it out, and man,
Census.
It's so important.
If you can do it before the end of this program, if all of your viewers would do it before the end of this program, I bet you Patterson can go up by a 0.5 percentage point tonight, and that's my challenge for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because the counting, the door knocking, is going to continue for a little while, but as a person who, as a taxpayer, as we both are, as we all are,
Yes, sir.
Save the government the fact that you're going to have to send somebody to knock on your door. Save that money, please, by going online right now. I like to put things in strange ways sometimes, but if you think about it, you could save the fact that, save the knock. Don't get bothered by that person knocking on your door, even though we never classify it as a bother. But why would you wait? Why wouldn't you want to be in that number right now? Why wouldn't you want to take 6 minutes to be a part of your community and help Patterson and St. Mary Parish get jobs and money for roads and money for Head Start and money for education?
Why they wouldn't want to do that, Mr. Jeff? I just don't know. I just don't know. But we got about just about 5 minutes or so with you. The mayor's is standing by. But overall, with the census itself, it's been very motivational what you said. So within this time frame between now and what the last day is, the 30th, right?
Yes, although I'm not able to comment on it because it's a fairly fresh and also very political issue, a judge did say today that the census should continue the counting a little bit longer. Yeah. So I again, I don't have an opinion to state about that, but it is a fact that a federal judge today did say that we should go a little bit longer.
Yeah, because we did get an extension already, correct?
Yes.
And what was the other deadline prior to the extension?
Well, right now, I'm just speaking completely fresh, and right now, if you were to follow what that federal judge says about an ongoing case, which of course nobody comments on ongoing cases, but right now, if you were to follow what seems to be that judge's direction, that the ending would be Halloween. But right now, the census is still just planning on ending its door knocking on the end of this month. But that's not essential to responding to the census anyway, because you can go online right now.
Right now.
All the way through December 31st. You can do it. And I don't like to mention the December 31st too often because people say, I got a lot of time to do it. I'll do it later. Oh, that's a terrible answer. Terrible answer. Please don't say do it later. Please do it now. Yes. Because number one, what did we just mention about saving that couple of dollars of that knocker going to your door? If you don't do it now, that knocker will eventually come to your door.
Yes, yes,
yes. And they're going to get that information some kind of way. And if you don't ever answer, then I feel like you haven't done what you should do for Patterson. I'd hate to turn things back negative again, but census.gov, go there now. Go there now. Just like voting. You know, people complain about the politicians we have in office or so, and then the next word out of their mouth will be, will you ask them, well, who'd you vote for or something? Oh, I don't vote. Right. Oh, I don't know what to say to somebody who complains when they don't vote. And then, you know, if you want services and Head Start and roads and jobs in Patterson and St. Mary Parish, census.gov. I sound like a broken record now.
It's all good. It's all good, man. It's all good. Well, you know what? I really appreciate you being with us here on the green screen on tonight. And it has
Mayor Grogan coming up. Did you get him on the feed?
He was on the feed. I don't know. He most probably going to come. He's going to come back in. So hold on. Don't leave just yet because
I'm not leaving because you push my button. I talk about this all night.
I know. Huh?
Why don't you see if you can get Grogan on the satellite, and I'll give you a number and for a second, okay?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
You concentrate on getting the mayor here, and I want to let you know that Berwick is already at 64% in self-response. The town of Baldwin is at 41% in self-response. The town of city of Franklin is at 58% self-response to the census already. I'm saving the best for last. Morgan City is at 58.3 of self-response. In other words, the number of households in Morgan City who have decided to self-respond either by phone or like you did online is more than 58%. Now Patterson, I'm gonna have to shake a finger at Patterson for a second here. Patterson is at 54%, okay? So that's part of why it is so valuable for you, Reverend, that you do say this at the services twice a week or wherever, and the other reverends in town too.
Yes,
I know I've spoken with the Interfaith Alliance. There's the East St. Mary and the West St. Mary, right? Y'all have two different ministerial alliances.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of folks, a lot of pastors have definitely been talking up the census. But 54% is really not shabby, because I'll give you the number, the self-response for Patterson for all of the year 2010, January to December of 2010 was 59%, okay? And Patterson, as we sit here at the end of September, is at 54. So I'm not saying anything's bad about that. It's just that I really wish that we could say, like Berwick. Come on, Patterson. You're not gonna let Berwick beat you.
Right. Well, we got the mayor here now, and Mayor Grogan, we welcome you. And Mr. Jeff, I thank you so much for being here with us on tonight. And we appreciate all you've done. And thank you again for being here.
We appreciate everything that the town of Patterson and the officials and the reverends and the leading citizens and the trusted voices of St. Mary Parish have done. And you're about to hear from one right now, because one of the first people who gave me the biggest welcome when we visited Patterson last year, more than a year and a half ago, was Grogan. And the entire council passed unanimously a resolution that said that they supported everyone responding to the census. And both Mayor Grogan and the entire council said they were going to encourage everybody, and they do, and they have encouraged everybody to respond to the census. Now, I'm going to shut up. Census.gov. I'm going to let you talk to the mayor.
Amen. Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate you again. And you make sure you be safe with all your new endeavors, man. We appreciate you so much.
You.
All right. Good seeing you. Take care now.
Okay.
All right, Mayor Grogan. Let's see. I see that your audio is connecting. Are you there, sir? Mayor Grogan. Mayor Grogan is standing by, and I'm trying to see why we're okay, Mayor. Your audio, Mayor, if someone...
He may have to grant access to audio. You have to grant access to the microphone.
Yes. If I can tell him to do that real quick, I'm gonna message him real quick and see, can I get him to connect his audio real quick?
Sure, go ahead. And I had a little difficulty tonight. I think the difficulties are not on your end, Councilman. It's in the system and technical difficulties like that.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. There we go. I think he's there now. Let's see. Mayor? Still not. Okay. There you go. Unmute your.
Okay.
There we go. There we go, Mayor Grogan. There we go. Welcome, sir, to the green screen. Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor of Patterson, Mayor Rodney Grogan, joining the talk show. Good evening.
How's it going, Pastor Kondo and Councilman Kondo? I really appreciate the time that you're providing to the Pattersonian area, St. Mary Parish, and beneficial to the state of Louisiana. It is very important that we actually get these numbers accounted for.
Right. And then when we look at the numbers, Mayor, when I saw that, I'm like, what's going on? He has to be on. I talked to Mr. Jeff. Mr. Jeff was fine with it. Mayor, how can we just actually get him out? Now is the crunch time, because there's a lot of things at stake here.
Well, I listened to Mr. Duhe, and if he's still listening, we want to thank Mr. Duhe for his efforts. I mean, he really came to St. Mary Parish and spoke to all the mayors. All 5 of the mayors were together, and he spoke to us down in Berwick. And he took all of us and basically kind of mapped it out for us what we needed to do. And we really were planning to connect with the faith base, with all the churches and so forth. And then when COVID came around, it kind of changed the plan. And I heard him say that we're going to roll until the 30th. But I woke up this morning, I heard California basically were granted until the end of October. because out of all the states, California is the largest to benefit, and COVID has really, caused problems all across the nation. And so I do believe we're going to go past the 30th. It is what it is at 54%. I'm not too happy with those numbers. I do believe right now, based upon all the different agencies that would benefit from federal funding, they all should be standing around me. We should have a chain connected all the way from Syracuse, all the way out into the Sycamore Point area and come back around with every agency, school board, our medical programs, all the Head Start, all the different agencies that benefit from federal funding should all be right now having some restless nights. Because I could tell you right now, when you're talking about $2,000 per head,
yes,
we back in 2010 we grew by 19%, and because in 2000 we were 5,000. We had just came from being a town, and so we grew by 19%. So that in 2010 we had 6,112 people accounted for. And once again, now, if that many was accounted for, there were still some hidden ones out there somewhere. So when you talk about $2,000 per head, we benefited by $12 million back in, just from the census from 2010. And as of last year, our numbers, we had went down like 0.5%, and we're right now at 5,792 people in the city of Patterson. That's basically because of oil field and the businesses closing down and so forth. But that's not bad, 5%. So we lost like 320 people. We had the National Guard here. We had a lot of other people that were here. So 320, and a household is roughly like 2.5. Now, I don't know how to get to half, but when you talk about a household about the size of 2.5, that's about 150 families that moved from the area. I'm more than sure it's not because they didn't like Patterson. Everyone loved Patterson. But, due to economic and job opportunities, people had to move. And if we would go off the numbers that we have right now, we would basically only get $6 million. That's half of what we got over the past 10 years. Now, once again, that will be with us for 10 years. 10 years. And and when you were in my office earlier today, I told you, we've been speaking to all. And as I said, I don't feel it has been pushed parish-wide. I don't feel that it's been pushed by the school board. I don't feel that it's been pushed by all these other agencies. Simply, it's showing because, as Mr. Duhe said, Louisiana has only shown like a 90%, they're in the 90 percentile, whereas 95% is basically the average number around the nation. Okay, so Louisiana as a whole is 5% down. And it's just, if you talk to someone, it hasn't really been pushed. And I know COVID has really interrupted a lot, but once again, all the agencies, we're talking about Test Action Clinic, where people walk in and probably just had to pay $1 for medicine or for the doctor's visits. If we lose federal funding, they're going to have to pay it like we pay a copay of about $20 to $50 copay. And I'm being serious about it. Free lunch. We just saw where around the parish, a lot of schools, basically everybody ate free. Well, I don't see that happening in the near future. I just don't see it. Para-educators' positions are going to be cut in the schools. Head Start is going to be cut. And I'm going to be honest with you, SNAPs is going to be cut. Food stamps. Why would the federal government send all that money down here when you don't have the people to really, supposedly, you don't have the people to account for the monies that they've been receiving in the past, sending out here in the past. Okay, so realistically, if they don't get out there and really get the do that simple census, food stamps gonna be cut. HUD Section 8. So when, as they say, when Susan go up on your rent, trust me, it's because you did not respond. And I came in came on really, I was going to pick at the housing authority. But I'm not going to pick at the housing authority because when I say I was going to pick at the housing authority, because that's what's being reported to me by all the door knockers, just saying they're going into the housing authority, which we have 106 units. Now you look at 106 units and just go with 2 in each unit. You're talking about roughly what, 212 people that are being unaccounted for, and we have several units that are 4-bedroom apartments and so forth.
Mhm.
So if you're not going to answer, so when Susan goes up on your rent, or if you live in a lot of the houses that receive, because there are beautiful brick homes out there that people are living in, is Section 8, and it's through the HUD program, USDA programs, every program around here, the students' Pell Grants, all of that stuff. Young Memorial, we will all suffer. You know, I'm looking at numbers right here in front of me, and you know the medical field received roughly like $311 billion just from federal funding.
Wow.
You know, that's a lot to lose. That's a lot to lose. So it's very important. And as I said, I came on, I was going to pick at the housing authority because that's the ones the door knockers are telling me they're having trouble with. But then I sat in front of someone today that's a business owner, and they said, "Well, you know, I haven't completed the census because I didn't think it was really that important."
Wow. Wow.
So therefore, I'm not going to bash the housing authority because a business owner not thinking that that's going to be really important and so forth, or how important it was, you know. And then what hit us, Pastor C, is that a lot of our mail-ins or whatever, it went to physical residents. Well, you know, here in the rural area, a lot of us have post office boxes. So some of them were just thrown in the trash. Some people just had to, the only way to do it was online, which is the best way. 10 years later, you can do it on your cell phone and just move on.
Yeah.
But we were hit with the postal service, and we were hit with the pandemic. I mean, those are 2 things I really believe hurt us bad. We're down 8 points from 10 years ago because we had a 62% response 10 years ago. So 8 points of being down, that's kind of, we're going to take a hit. And as I said, we're going to take a hit for Patterson, but once again, the whole parish as a whole, the parish 10 years ago was at 53,000. I think right now we're roughly at 48,000. Okay. And if Patterson is only accounting for 3,000 people, take 3,000 off of that 48. And when you look at Morgan City was 12,000 people 10 years ago. And when I looked at it earlier today, Morgan City has dropped down to 10,000, and with only roughly 58% responding. So I talked to Eugene, the mayor from Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
Franklin was 7,600 10 years ago. Right now, they're down like 6,000, might be 6,500. But still, a 58% yielding 68% response is not really good. It's like half of you're going to be feeding your full population for the next 10 years off of half of the those that were accounted for. We do receive state funding, capital outlay, and so forth, and we have road royalty money that we've been able to overlay some of the streets with and so forth. But when you talk about federal funding, you're talking about that $800,000 that we just received to overlay the alphabet streets, Gaither, Rosera, Hickory Street, all of those streets, Lawrence. All of those streets are going to be overlaid for the $800,000 that we just received from the CDBG money. That's federal money. But the hit is going to be, I think it's going to really be on our medical industry, along with the schools, because I'm not talking about the local schools. The CARES Act is taking care of that. Okay. As Mr. Duhe said, the CARES Act, there was money that was put there in the CARES Act for the small businesses. and so forth. But what about those in college? They're paying, I mean, I paid $17,000 for the 4 years that I went to LSU. It's $17,000 a year now, you know?
Wow, yeah.
So, so if federal funding is going to be cut, Pell Grants and all the other grants and so forth, when you talk about grants, if you need to go to a break, you can go to your break, I can come back. But when you talk about grants, we have to match because of our income. We're yielding like $32,000 mean income. So we have to put up 15% of a grant. So the government pay 85%, and we have to put up the other 15%, you know. Berwick, 10 years ago, Renwick wasn't there. And most of the numbers that came back yield Berwick as being a poverty-stricken area. So they're identified as an opportunity zone. And portion of Morgan City over like south of the rail, opportunity zone, simply because the numbers came back as a poverty-stricken area. Billionaire comes to Washington, D.C. I wanted to start development out up in South Louisiana, and I want to go out there around the Chapala, Lower Chapala. I want to go over there to Berwick. All that money goes to Berwick, or it goes up into the, well, which we're blessed because it's all going in one pot. But simply because those 10 years ago, Berwick now will be listed as an opportunity zone. They can, you know, businesses and so forth, big time businesses can come up and develop in that area.
Wow. And this is why you guys are here tonight, to talk of the importance of filling out the census form. And you mentioned earlier, Mayor, $2,000 per person. That's a lot.
$2,000 per person, yes.
That's a lot.
Right now, if we went off the numbers right now, we would only receive $6 million. We were, you know, that's half of what we received, roughly 12 million over the past 10 years. And that's the money from St. Mary Parish that has gone up to the federal government up in Washington, D.C.
Lee, is my mic still on?
Oh yeah, your mic's still on. Yes.
Hello, Mayor. I want everybody to notice one thing. Does your mayor seem to have his figures in order? Does he seem to know what he's talking about?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This man can tell you exactly down to the penny where city money is spent.
Yes, sir.
Good
yes,
job,
sir.
Grogan. You know what? You know how the cow ate the cabbage, huh? But I wanted to ask you though, if I may interject. When you and I first talked in Patterson at the City Hall, you were telling me the details of something that happened in 2010 that because the census was not accurate, in your opinion, something bad happened. Would you relay that anecdote? Maybe it would be a good one to tell, good story to tell.
Well, I mean, and if you look at St. Mary Parish as a whole, and you would say, and the people, all the viewers and so forth, and those that will watch this in the future, that if you look at St. Mary Parish and you say, okay, we're looking for a poverty-stricken area, lower income area. That area would have been identified, in my opinion, and several others. It would have been the Baldwin area. Okay, but because Baldwin's response was so poor, and probably the ones that really responded were those in the upper echelon, those that in a nice tax bracket, it just didn't qualify. Now we got to look at the fact, Renwick wasn't there years ago in Berwick. 10 years ago, Renwick wasn't there because the perception and what we see right now, how could it be identified as a poverty-stricken area, low-income area, and so forth? Well, where the numbers, the targeted area, the numbers that were reported in a certain area, that's the area that qualified. Am I not correct?
And I want to finish your sentence. Qualified to be declared an area in which businesses would be very welcome and businesses are rewarded for locating. That's what the rest of your sentences?
Correct. And the other areas are Palousas and so forth. I mean, they're jumping on these things. They're jumping on them, and they're creating housing and so forth because they know what's to come. We have 10 years And we've been down in Baton Rouge sitting there, and although Patterson wasn't included um, in the opportunity zone, I commend Duval Arthur, because anytime he goes out to Baton Rouge and so forth, and they're talking about opportunity zone, he said, well, Rodney, why don't you just come along? You know, and maybe someone may say, okay, well, we're talking about 5 mile drive.
That's not that is not. They look at what numbers to decide to make a real hard choice.
Correct.
They look at whose numbers decide where the rubber hits the road. It's the census number.
Correct. And sitting in that meeting, trust me, there were a lot of big people with some big money sitting there, and you know, I would say within the next 2-3 years, things are going to happen, but it takes a partnership. I mean, there's a lot of stakeholders have to be at the table and so forth. They just don't come into an area and drop their dollars. There's a lot of stakeholders, and really they'll come in and revitalize a whole shopping, like we have the shopping center here in Patterson, which a lot of people say should just be torn down. They'll come in and make a condominiums or something out of it. They're looking to revitalize areas and to cause growth. But once again, if the spending power doesn't look good, they're not going to invest their money.
And you guys, you know, it's very informative, man, because once again, we even talk about it, Mayor, as far as business coming into the city. And we also mentioned about, you know, how much the state itself can lose just from people not filling out the 2020 census form. And it is just, man, it's just so important that, because a lot of money is at risk here. Wouldn't you say, Mayor Grogan?
And see, that's what bothers me, because if Patterson was an island by itself, I would be just sitting back with a cigar smoking. You know me, I would have knocked at every door and thrown out a demand, a response and so forth. But, you know, it's a whole, because where we fall short,
somebody pick up. Huh?
If we fall short, then St. Mary Parish is gonna fall short. Now you take 5 different municipalities, and you're talking about 5,300 people, whereas the 5 different municipalities make up about half of that. So if at least 30,000 or 25,000 people don't respond, and then what the parish has to account for, if they have we're only going to show up with about 30,000 people here in St. Mary Parish. And we're all going to be fighting. It's going to be cutthroat. Mm-hmm. And if you had to prioritize, and you know I say it like it is, Pastor Steve, yes, sir. If we had to prioritize, because all monies that come down go straight through the parish first, and then it's distributed out to the different communities and so forth. So the parish is going to reap the benefit from the total number. You know, am I right or am I wrong, Mr. Duhe?
Well, the structure of how you would like to, of how you spend things is that's your bailiwick, Mayor. I'm not going to comment on if that's proper or not.
Well, the thing about it, we're blessed here in St. Mary Parish, and I speak that around the country. All of our money goes into one pot and is distributed per capita, which you don't find that around the country and so forth. And I want to say this: if we lose monies, federal monies, and people are fighting taxation and millages and everything, how are we going to get the money? How are we going to get free money, which some people say is not free money? How are we going to get what's rightfully ours that's sent up to Washington, D.C. with federal taxes and returned back to Louisiana? How we're going to get that money if you're not going to complete the forms?
Well, that's one of the ways. That's one of the reasons why I like to phrase it. Let me put it bluntly. I often like to phrase the funding question this way, because this will answer both conservatives and progressives. You're not looking to milk a federal cow. You are looking to get your fair share of what you fed that cow to make that milk, right?
And I agree.
You're not looking for a handout here, and I'm not going to finish the cliche about the hand. I'm looking for a hand, but you are looking for something that is fair. Now, how do we decide what is fair? We decide that by numbers in this cold world, don't we?
Correct. You know, and Mr. Dewey, let's get away from the money now.
Yeah, please.
Because
Please.
when you were talking to Councilman Condor earlier, you kind of alluded to the fact of how you reach out to the blacks and so forth. How do you get the blacks to participate, the minorities to participate? Well, I do want to say, if we don't get the numbers in and so forth, some minority districts may be cut. We may lose some district seats on the school board. We may lose some seats with parish government. Those seats were put there based upon the minority, certain areas, the population and so forth. So there's a possibility there could be 1 or 2 seats, not just lost, because we could possibly lose 1 seat congressionally with the House of Representatives, because when you ask the councilman about the seating in the House of Representatives, you're really talking about what, 435 House of Representatives seats?
435, and it's divvied up among all states.
Correct. And we occupy 6 of those, and which Higgins, Councilman, Congressman Higgins actually represent us with the 3rd district. Okay. Yes. And we do know we had 7 districts years ago up until 2010, and because of the 2010 numbers, that which Bustani was holding,
and threw you into a fight with Bustani and Lander, yeah.
Yeah, and so that became obsolete.
But so Mayor, again, I'll finish your sentence. I think you forgot to mention one thing. Census numbers, yes, they determine the number of seats we have, not seats we have in Congress. That stays the same, but they determine how many seats Louisiana has.
Correct.
House of Representatives. But the census numbers are also used in Baton Rouge when they draw the political districts for the Senate district and for the House of Representatives district. Now, even in the Baton Rouge version of drawing those numbers, those Senate districts get drawn. Correct. Because, of course, there are 39 senators in Baton Rouge and 105 representatives. And those district lines are drawn based on census data and how people responded every 10 years. So that's another bucket that you're stuck in for 10 years.
Correct.
If you don't get the numbers accurate, and especially going back to your point, the word minority here.
Correct. And so that's why it's imperative that that the blacks actually get out and actually get and not get out. All you gotta do is get on your computer, get on your iPad.
Don't leave the house. Leave the mask on. Don't leave the house.
Right, and you shouldn't have to be forced to do this simply because our forefathers fought too hard, and to lose these seats. Even just the young generation and so forth have been fighting to maintain these seats. And even with voting, we do know we got a presidential election coming up, along with House of Representative seats and senator seats. And I hear people say we got to get people registered to vote. We have enough people registered to vote. We just got to make sure they go out and vote. Okay.
Good point. Good point.
You know, so even with this, all you have to do, years ago, you didn't have accessibility to a cell phone or an iPad. It was someone knocking at your door, or you had to send it back in the mail.
Yeah, send the paperback, right.
Right. Now you have it's just very simple. And once again, I have to say, like one of the census workers told it to me, housing authority people, Susan will not know who was in your house and so forth. That's none of her business. And she'll never know that. Because Mr. Duhe, I need you to say how long I love the fact that I would love for Alan Williams, late Alan Williams, my history teacher, to be alive. You sound like you just love telling this being the demographics and all this stuff, along with Coach Simmons. You guys look like y'all have a passion for putting this information out here. But why don't you talk about that information that you have put out in regards to I've drawn a blank.
Is it confidentiality?
Yes. How long it will be before this information has divulged in 2020 be released?
It will be 72 years before somebody knows who the names of your children that you have told to the census.
So
You
Pattersonians,
will be
please
long
go.
gone by the time. Well, you
Susan
might not
finds
be. No,
out.
you might not be. No. But
And
it is. It's 50 years. I mean, it's 70 years. The reason that we add two is that there's two added by law. But de facto, the fact is, the census information is not available. Like if you were to provide the names of the people in your household. I have a child named Jeanette. I have a son named Brandon. That information, and Jeanette's 15 and Brandon's 10. That information will not be available for public viewing for 72 years.
correct.
Now you might wonder, well, why am I giving them the information? Well, it's just because they don't know the name Brandon and Jeanette doesn't mean that the census is not going boy and a girl on that street. You see, they sort of bring it out to the neighborhood level, and only the information at the neighborhood 2, 3, 4,000 group of people level. They'll tell you how many people there are there. You can learn immediately after the census is completed. Okay, of this neighborhood, 3,000 people, are these three tracks that make up Patterson. This neighborhood of 3,000 people, I can find out immediately that 51% of them are male. Da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? I can
Correct.
find out things about those 3,000 people, but I will never be able to get the names Brandon and Jeanette out of that information. But I will eventually, and the timeline is 72 years. So actually, you know what? We've been talking a lot of hard things like money and representation and everything. If you have a sense of pride as to who is in your family, there are a lot of people who are interested in genealogy, of course. They can go back and they can look at where grandma was living in 1940, but they can't find out where she's living in 1950 until what year? Let's put 72 on 50. Until 2022, they're going to be able to go look at the 1950 census. Okay, that means 72 years have passed. I can look at it. But that's absolutely true, Mayor. Not only is that information not available for 72 years, but for the person that, when you get a knock on the door, and it's usually young ladies who do that knocking. So I'm not being sexist when I say, okay, what are you going to tell her? Whatever you tell her, she has to keep confidential. She can enter it into the pad that she's got, okay? Or she can write it down on paper if we've been having those pads go down a little bit. She can write down Brandon and Jeanette, right? If she goes off a week from now and tells somebody, you know, that man has 2 children in his house named Brandon and Jeanette. Okay, she's in jail 7 years. How does that sound?
Wow.
Okay, so I'm just telling you, nobody can tell who is in your house. That census taker is sworn under federal oath that the fine will be $250,000 and the jail time will be there. I'm serious. It's like, you know the old cliche, you make a federal case out of it. Census data is making a federal case out of it if you should ever share improperly that information. And I shouldn't even qualify that by improperly. The information cannot be shared, period.
Correct.
72 years.
Correct.
So for anybody who maybe their immigration status is in their mind a worry as to why they might not want to complete the census, ICE ain't coming, and neither is Health and Human Services, and neither is Child Protective Services, or the lawyer for your ex-wife that you owe child support to. Nobody is coming because nobody is going to get that information at all.
Correct.
Just
Wow.
plain, it ain't gonna happen.
Wow.
And I think that's my problem. And as I said, I was only told that information by some of the census takers that a certain area and was not being, compliant. They were not being very welcoming with opening their doors and giving out information. So I appeal to all of our people in the housing authority area, and then just not the housing authority area, those that are in public assisted programs and so forth. Just give up the information, and I'm telling you, no one is going to know. No one is going to know. But it's not fair for you to live off of to make it, because we'll be struggling. We will struggle for the next 10 years if we have at least 55 to 6,000 people here, and we're only been receiving money for about 3,000. That's not fair.
Not fair at all. And
you know, we're on roller coaster rides now on the roads and so forth. And so if we can't get money for roads, and one thing that's very important to Patterson is the overpass at Red Cypress. That's a $25 million project. That is the next overpass that has been promised to take place within the next 3 to 4 years at Red Cypress, take it south of the rail, and that's that safety net that they've been waiting for years. So we want, you know, to reduce the accidents and the deaths out on Highway 90. So that would take us from Red Cypress over to Lear by the nursing home, and you never would have to really cross over to 90 except by that overpass. That's a $25 million project that's in the works. But if the funding decreases, and then another problem we have, I see funded up under federal programs, wildlife and fisheries, black bears. We need those fundings to pay for the garbage cans and so forth, for bear-proof cans. You know, so it's from hospitals all the way down to the little rodents.
wow, what more could you ask for? On the green screen, very, 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 very informative on tonight. And I appreciate you all both. And Mr. Jeff, Louisiana Partnership Coordinator for Census 2020, and of course, Mayor Grogan, I thank you for accepting the invitation to be here on tonight to talk to Patterson. And in our closing, Mayor Grogan, and once again, thank you, Mr. Jeff, for staying there.
Thank you, Mr. Jeff.
We appreciate you so much. In our closing,
very well.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have done very well. COVID, despite it, I mean, COVID really cut us off, Mayor, you know?
Yes.
COVID cut me off from visiting with you personally. And this is not a good time to digress about how COVID has done us wrong on promotion of the census. But y'all have done very well. Respectful.
I'll tell you what, God is going to, 10 years from now, he's going to bless us to be around. Either I'll be in his office or I'll still be in the community, but I'll know how important it is, and you're going to be still around and so forth. And we're just got to say, okay, well, we have to make up for 2020.
Yeah.
2030.
And I will come back and say, hey, listen, I remember 10 years ago. But it's all good. I appreciate you all. And Mayor Grogan, like I said, in our closing tonight, what would you just want to say to those that are in the Patterson area before we get off the air tonight? We are our brother's keeper. Let's look out for one another, for each other. We have a responsibility. We have a responsibility. You can go online right now and you could just, it's very quick. And if you need help, whatever, just inbox me and I'll help you. You know, but you have a responsibility to yourself, to your kids, to your parents, to your grandparents, to the community as a whole. The only way we can grow is if we all do our work for. Wow, that was awesome. Mayor Grogan, Mr. Jeff, I want to thank you all so much for being here tonight, being my special guest on the green screen, where we are what? You know it, inspirational, informative, motivational, and encouraging. And thank y'all for sharing this important information about the Census 2020, all right? And once again, I appreciate both of you guys, and make sure you have a blessed evening. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us on tonight. And you're welcome. And until then, and remember, the next time someone asks you how you're feeling, tell them it feels good to feel good. And that's definitely a good feeling. God bless and good night. Take care. Okay.